Hello everyone and welcome. Please excuse my voice. I'm getting a bit of a cold, and as you can see I'm in my robe because I can't get warm. Do you ever get kind of bone chilled when you don't feel good? That's how I feel today, so please excuse me if I sound a little rough, but I didn't want to miss making the videos. I know that those of you who like to follow me appreciate the fact that you have videos often, and I don't want to disappoint you. Besides, you know the old saying that misery loves company. Well, I'm kind of misery. But I think that's because we can get some sympathy, and so if y'all have any sympathy left over, you can send it my way. I got a cold. Anyway, today what I'm finishing up this little project that I had started sometime back and put it up and didn't finish it. But this is a very nostalgic little piece because it's something my grandmother taught me to make way early on when she was working with me one summer in sewing. And I was probably about 8 years old. And so she said, well, the first thing you need to do is make a button book. And of course that interested me. What little girl doesn't like a collection of buttons? But she said a button and bows book. And when you can sew the buttons and bows, then we'll go to the next thing. And so I was very excited, and of course back then it wasn't extremely fancy, and so I've been trying to make this one look kind of the same way. But all she did was she made a little fabric cover, and then she just put a little simple, with her quilt batting, she put a little 2-page what do you call it, signature inside of it. And she machine sewed it down. And the first page she did for me. She said, you're going to practice sewing buttons, and she taught me how to make fold these little bows out of ribbon, and I had to sew that on and put a little French knot on it. And then she would put me some little safety pins and little straight pins on that page for me, and we would call that done. On my last page, when I finished doing what she asked me to do, then she added a couple of sewing needles and a couple of little spools of little wind up cards of thread. And I really had my own little needle book, but she called it a button book. And the reason why she did was because the first things that she thought a little girl ought to learn to do is sew buttons. And because back then, if a button came off of something, you sewed it back on, or you went and found one if you couldn't find it, found one as close as you could, because they always cut the buttons off anything that was truly worn out and they couldn't use anymore. They saved all their buttons. And so she said, you always want to be able to know how to sew a button on for yourself and for your children and for your husband and so forth and so on. And you know, that really didn't come home to me until probably the last 10, 20 years, when I have seen teenage girls tell their mother they need to throw a blouse away because the button's missing. And what really shocked me was that the mother agreed. And I thought, does neither one of them know how to sew a button on? And so anyway, that, and plus I also think that this could be made for little girls, it could be made for little boys, because how many men are single for quite a while, and they need the skill of just plain sewing a simple button on a shirt when they lose a button. And so anyway, that's the story behind a button book. Now this one, I had started it to add to a junk journal. And I think that is a great embellishment for a junk journal, is a button book. And it's just a little tweak on a needle book. It's not really designed for a whole collection of needles. It's just a way to teach a young person how to sew buttons. And so she would sew my first page, and then she would give me a collection of buttons, and I would fill the other pages, fill all that. Then I would make my little bows and sew those on. And when I would get my buttons and bow on, she would give me the pins to put in there. And of course, when you're 8 years old, especially back in my generation, which I am 77 now, so that was a whole few decades back, to have your own little pins, straight pins, and safety pins, and a collection of buttons, it was just absolutely wonderful. I would open that little book, and it was such a tactile experience, touching everything, and just knowing that all these little pins were mine was just so exciting. So, as you can tell, it doesn't take much to excite me, but anyway, this little button book is to teach a young one a simple sewing technique. She taught me how to sew 2-hole, 4-hole, a shank button, and of course folding the little bows and then making a French knot. So you learn several little things, and you also learn to be very careful, because now you're handling sharp objects, safety pins and straight pins, and you're being trusted with that. And so you learn to take care of that. When we got through, all she did to finish off the raw edges was what she called a whip stitch. And so that's the same thing I'm using around the edge here, just to keep the edge a little cleaner and not ravel. Okay, how can I do this? The first thing, I haven't even begun, and I already got a tangled up thread. Okay. All right, she didn't teach me that. I taught myself that somehow or another. I hope all of you are well, and I can't really complain. I haven't had a cold or anything for 3 or 4 years probably. I've been really, really well, and so I can't really complain, but I am a very wimpy person. I don't do pain well, and I don't do sick well, so again, any sympathy you got, just pour it on, because I could use it. I love finishing these projects, and stay all the way to the end, because I'm going to show you the next one I'm going to be working on, and I think you'll find it interesting. It's a true slow stitchers project, and this won't take a whole long time to whip stitch around the edge of this, and then this is considered done. And I am going to add this to a junk journal, and add a little packet of extra buttons that they can finish out the button book themselves, sewing the buttons in. Be a nice little gift for a young girl. Her own junk journal with her button book in it. How did you learn to sew? Did you teach yourself, or how did you come to love needlework? The fact that you're on YouTube, watching videos, learning, experimenting, working on them yourself. How did you learn? Did someone teach you, like my grandmother taught me several things in the beginning? After that, my mother was not a needlework person. I probably didn't get back to learning to do anything with needlework till I was probably in my early 20s. And when I was pregnant with my first child, I wanted to make some little things for the newborn, and I wanted to hand stitch it, so that's when I began again. And so I did, made some little outfits, a little coming home outfit, and I did little embroidery on it and everything, and then I just fell in love with the needle and thread all over again. And of course, when you're raising children and working and things like that, you don't have a lot of time. So after I got a little older and empty nest and retired, well, I said, I'm going to just play in my craft room with my needle and thread for the rest of my life. And so that's what I'm doing. And I wanted to share, 77, what am I doing on YouTube? Well, I wanted to share my love for this, what I do. And through the years, people have said that I have a talent for what I do. I don't know about that. We just do what we do. But I thought, well, maybe someone else would enjoy creating in a style like I create. But I'll never be able to share that with them because, how many people do I know? And at this age, I can't go on the road and can't do shows and can't give classes and can't travel around the world. So okay, I'm going to go to YouTube. And so here I am. And I so appreciate all the new subscribers that I've been getting lately and all my older ones who come back faithfully. You make it worthwhile. When I know that you're out there and like I can talk to you like I am now, it just feels so wonderful to have someone to work with and somebody who is sharing what I'm doing. And I often go and watch other stitchers because we all can learn. I learn all the time, and I just enjoy that so much. And I know because I do it myself, I know how much time it takes to handle a YouTube channel, even just beginning like I am. I'm just a beginner. But you have to love what you do. And you have to do it for the love of it, because in the beginning, there's not a penny to be made. And so you just want to, most of the time, they just love what they do and they want to help people to have that same feeling. And I appreciate that. I thank all those ladies out there with their YouTube channels that are stitching away, and we are all learning from them. Isn't that wonderful? Truly unselfish on their part. Okay, let me tie off this one. Again, this is one of those perfectly imperfect projects. Nothing here is elegant, but it's functional. And it's scrappy, and there's lots of loose threads involved, so of course I love it. Let my thread get a little bit short here. Better loop it a couple of times. And then we'll hide it in between these layers. I tell you what, I have lost more needles this last week. I've lost 2 needles. I know there's on this desk somewhere, but I have no idea where. Okay. Oh, what did I do here? Oh, one is pinned to the other one. There you go. Get off of there. Okay, we're almost around this thing. Just got a little bit to go, and I have a needle threaded up here. And it's already knotted even. Am I not on the ball? Okay, let's. Today, it's kind of hard to get even a little girl interested sometimes in sewing. They have so many options for entertainment. And the idea of sitting down sewing on a button may not excite them at all. But there are some little girls out there that do want to do those crafty things. And so take advantage of that. I know I spent several months teaching 3 of my great-granddaughters how to make junk journals. And that was at the time when COVID hit. So when that happened, I got a Zoom account and we did it over Zoom together for several months. And I would make little videos and we would watch those together, and then they would watch me like you're doing now in live, and we just believe it or not, they're all wonderful little junk journal makers. They're creative, they're artistic, they love it. Once they learned the basics, they began to put their own spin on their books, and it just was wonderful. Several things have happened since then, so I haven't really had an opportunity to sit down and do stitchery with them, but I hope someday that I will. And but it's never too late. If you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 70s, or 80s, you can learn to love stitching. Especially slow stitching, and especially the perfectly imperfect style, because you don't worry about anything. You just enjoy the process. Well, as my grandmother would say, we whip stitched our way around here. And now we will secure this thread. Same way we did the other one. We'll run it between the layers for a distance. Okay. Alrighty. I would say, look at them whip stitches, that these were perfectly imperfect, wouldn't you? I'm proud of those. All right. There's a little button book. I hope you enjoyed that. Until next time, you stay scrap happy.